So why become CompTIA Security Plus certified? Well, as I said, CompTIA Security Plus certification is going to show employers and others that you have the skills they need. Because again, as we covered, businesses are constantly at risk. There's been recent studies that have shown from a number of different independent bodies that upwards of 85 to 90 to 95% of all companies have been hacked or have had their perimeters breached, so to speak, at one point or another. So as you can imagine, businesses large and small are going to lose billions of dollars each year from theft, whether it be intellectual property, customer data, loss of consumer or customer trust, etc., etc. So this professional certification is going to show that you have the skills that they need, and it's going to increase your marketability. And it's also going to provide opportunities for advancement. So how to become Security Plus certified? Well, there's a few things. We're going to study the material in this course, and you have to really review over and over until you're comfortable with all the terms and the concepts. Test yourself with practice questions so you understand how questions will be asked. Because again, if you don't want to walk in to the testing scenario or the testing facility and have that be the very first time that you've seen the test. It's not enough just to study the material. You have to become comfortable with the actual act of taking a test. Secondly, just don't memorize the questions. That's a big no-no. Very bad idea, because if all you do is remember the questions or memorize the questions, if those questions are then flipped up and turned around on you, you're going to be lost. So you need to make sure that you understand the concepts, not just the questions. Because invariably, when you take the exam, questions will be worded in such a fashion that you may or may not understand right away. You might have to reread 2 or 3 times to get the gist of what the question is asking. And if you think you know it because you've memorized a bit or a piece of another sentence or another question in an exam prep piece, all of a sudden you're going to find yourself in deep water. So it's very important to understand the actual concepts underneath. And then thirdly, register for the exam. Set a date and work toward that date. Very important to draw a line in the sand, so to speak, and then work backward from there. All right, go online. At that point, you can register for your exam at www.view.com/CompTIA, and you register at a local testing center near you. So if you're traveling and you plan to be away at a certain point in time and you want to take that exam while you're traveling, you can register for an exam center close to where you're going to be. All right, and then again, if you want to maximize your training, you need to become a lifelong student. Information technology, as we know, IT, is constantly evolving. New security threats are discovered daily. Every 6 months, there's a new technology, or on the security side of things, you'll hear about a new breach. Millions of dollars or millions of customer accounts have been compromised, and so on and so forth. So there's always going to be a new threat. And if you learn something and kind of stay in that static position, 6 months, a year from now, all your information, all your knowledge is going to be antiquated. So it's very important to always learn and always be willing to get involved with new things. And then secondly, have fun with your training. When you enjoy the process, you're going to stick with it, you're going to remember more, and you're going to apply more. So I'm going to try my very best to make this as fun as possible. I might tell some silly jokes, some stupid jokes. I certainly appreciate if you just kind of laugh along anyway, even if it's not funny. Kind of humor me a little bit, but at the bottom line, we're going to make it fun, as fun as can be. Some of the material, as we know, can get a little bit dry at times. I'm going to try my best to make it enjoyable. So, is this only applicable to security professionals? Well, the answer obviously is no. Security is everyone's responsibility. Everyone needs to strive to keep their data secure. Network and system admins should practice security. Application development folks should design with security in mind. And again, some of these things are kind of common knowledge, and we assume everyone's going to do these things, but it's not necessarily a given. So I'm just kind of reiterating it here for your information, but everybody needs to take security very, very seriously. Physical security is as much of a problem, if not more. All right, so don't assume it's someone else's responsibility. Most on-site attacks, whether you read Gartner or some industry periodical and so on and so forth, you'll hear the same types of things. Most on-site attacks occur because people act like they're supposed to be there. All right, so people assume if they look like they know what they're doing, that they're allowed to be there. All right, so don't assume, question. All right, that brings me to a prior topic you may or may not be familiar with. There's a gentleman by the name of Kevin Mitnick, who was one of the world's most famous hackers for a long period of time, and he's been in and out of of prison. So he was actually caught at one point in time, but for a very long period of time, he actually had the FBI and a lot of federal agencies kind of on the run, so to speak. They were chasing him for quite a period of time. And he was extremely successful because he acted like he was supposed to be somewhere. He mastered the art of what's known as quote unquote social engineering, and that allowed him to basically get into places where he really shouldn't have had any right to be. But how he did that was very simply researching ahead of time, understanding the language, understanding some key terms, some key people in the organization, perhaps finding some phone numbers from one or two people, calling another division within the company, and using that information he gathered from before to speak the language, asking for a password or a phone number or an email address. And he would just get enough information so that whoever he talked to just naturally assumed, hey, he's supposed to be there. Even though I've never seen him before, even though I've worked here for 10 years, I've never seen this person before, but hey, he sounds like he knows what he's supposed to be doing, so I guess he is supposed to be here. And they would just hand over the information to him. And as a result, he was extremely successful in getting into some of the biggest companies in the United States, basically some of the biggest companies in the world. So again, don't assume it's someone else's responsibility. If you don't recognize someone, or if you don't think they should be there, or maybe just something doesn't add up right, question them. Ask to see their badge, or whatever the case may be. If it's in front of you, act upon it.